So we were actually training on the specify ledger options task, and we'll continue with that today also because there are a few more points left on that page with respect to that setup. So let us see. So the task name is under financials. The task name is specify ledger options. You need to select the first one because that is the one for primary ledger. Okay, you select the scope. Now currently the scope is the same as my ledger, so I need not change it. And I'll say specify ledger options. Click on that, and this page will again open. Okay, yesterday we have understood every until journal entry. Until this part we have covered. Now the reconciliation part. In case of reconciliation, there is one advanced functionality which is called clearing account reconciliation. So if you want that feature to be enabled, then you will have to first enable here, and then there are subsequent setups that will have to be made in order to use that functionality. Okay, then import. So import separate journals by accounting date during the import. That means this particular checkbox, what it makes sure is when, let's say, for example, in case of subledger, that is the accounts payable or accounts receivable, whatever journal entries are created. So there is an accounting entry that happens on a specific date in those in the subledgers. Okay, now when it is imported, okay, to GL, that point of time, should the journals be imported separately as per the accounting dates, as per their accounting dates. Okay, so that is what the input this particular checkbox governs. Okay, so separately importing all the uh, accounting data as per the accounting dates. Okay, not clubbing it together to one specific date, that is the end of the period. Okay, so that is where this particular checkbox works. Then we have intercompany. Okay, now intercompany is what? Intercompany balancing basically. Okay. Intercompany accounting is basically what? Whenever you are dealing in intercompany transactions. Okay, that means you are selling to another company within your own group or within your same enterprise. Okay, so at that point of time, there will be an intercompany accounting that might be that would be required. So generally, what happens is, if it is a manual journal, okay, you are entering, let's say, for an intercompany transaction, then you can you will do what? Enter the data in one ledger, that means under one company, and with a let's say, for example, the example is like, for one company it is an expense one, and for the other it is a revenue, let's say. Okay, then in that case, the expense for company A, expense account debit to intercompany payable, right? That is the accounting entry that you will enter. Similarly, in case of company B, what is the accounting entry that you will do? Intercompany receivable account debit to revenue. That is how the entry you would do in a manual case. So for both of the companies separately, you will have to enter the intercompany account payable and intercompany receivable lines in the journal entry. But if intercompany is enabled, okay, the intercompany functionality or intercompany accounting as a functionality is enabled, then system takes care of that. Obviously, there are certain other setups required, but this is the first step of enabling the intercompany. Okay, the other step is like you need to define certain rules for intercompany balancing. Okay, so that we will understand, once we cover that particular part of the intercompany. Okay, now reversals, journal reversal criteria set, and then there are certain some of the options related to that. Now, what is the journal reversal criteria set being used for? Basically, there are accruals and accrual reversals that are to be done every period. Okay, so let's say, for example, for any kind of expenditure that was incurred in advance, the accrual entries would be done by the business, okay, every period until it is not realized or until it is not paid off, okay, like that. Just an example I'm taking. So those accrual entries, the periodic accrual entries, system has a functionality which can take care of the reversals automatically. Okay. So for those accrual entries that you are doing every period, system has a functionality or has a feature where the as soon as the next period is opened, okay, as soon as the new period is opened, automatically system will do the accrual reversals. So that is, so a journal reversal criteria set is something that helps in the auto reversal process, and that journal reversal criteria which you are using need to be set at this place. Okay, which again we will touch upon the auto reversal part when we do the auto reversal journals. At that point of time, we will come back to this section again, and we will understand what is the use of it. Okay, or the concept of it again in detail. Okay, then run auto reverse after open period. So this checkbox makes sure that after the new period has been opened, automatically the reversal should run based on this auto reversal criteria. Okay. Then synchronize reversals between primary and secondary ledger. This we will understand later. Okay, now sequencing part. So sequencing is what? Basically assignment of a particular numbering in sequence to the transaction documents or to the accounting. Okay, so the accounting data, the accounting entries that are generated, okay, the journals, the accounting journals that are generated. For that, basically, there is a sequence that we would want to provide. So every business, okay, has this practice, okay, where they need to maintain a particular number, okay, or a sequential number for recording purposes, which in turn would be utilized in future for or in the audit process, and then it can be easily retrieved. Those accounting journals, or for that matter those documents would be easily can be easily retrieved based on those unique numbering, okay, or the sequential numbering that is provided. So earlier, when the now even today manual records are maintained, right? Even though ERP is there, still many a times many businesses might prefer to sorry, maintain the physical filing. Okay, so when they maintain the physical filing, in order to keep it in a proper proper manner, or proper sequential manner, they would assign certain numbering. So that is where that numbering is generated within ERP, and whatever number is generated, that is something that is written down on the document, and then we make the filing accordingly. Okay, so that numbering, basically how generation of that numbering, whether to be included or whether to be enabled or not, that is what this setup is for in the specify ledger option. Sequencing, accounting and document sequencing. So sequencing by ledger or by legal entity, or you don't want any sequencing. Okay, so how do you want? There are three options. No sequencing means no voucher numbering will be generated. So this is nothing but the voucher numbering, you can say. Okay, then ledger and legal entities. So if you choose the sequencing by ledger, the number that you assign, okay, or the sequence that you assign will be based on the ledger. Okay, let's say for example, the starting sequence number is 1. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, everything will follow, and it would be at the ledger level. Okay, that is the primary ledger level. Okay, but if it is legal entity that you are selecting, then for each legal entity, the numbering will have to be created, and then it will follow the sequence. So for, let's say for example, ABC Corp 1, there would be a sequence starting with 1. Similarly for ABC Corp, XYZ Corp LE, there will be another sequence with the respect specifically created for the second legal entity, and for which again there will be a numbering that will be maintained. But if it is ledger, then for all legal entities within the ledger, it will be a common sequence. Okay, common sequence will be there. So that is what the difference between ledger and legal entity is in case of accounting and document sequence. So accounting also, for accounting entry that is generated, for that also a sequence can be maintained. And for document, so what is the document? In case of payables, it is the invoice and the payments. That is a transaction document. In case of receivables, it is the receivable invoice, standard receipts, or all those things are the documents. Okay, so in this case, if you enable, let's say, sequencing by ledger, okay, then you have an option to enforce document sequencing for payable and receivable. Okay, so it will be specifically for the document sequencing will be specifically for payable and receivable. Now, enforce document sequencing for payable and receivable means what? Make it mandatory for payable and receivable. Okay, and then enforce chronological order on document accounting date. That means based on the accounting date, make sure that the or make it mandatory that the chronological order is maintained in the sequence. So that is what you can enable once if you enable this enforce option. Okay, so if you enable enforce, then definitely you will have to give a sequence. There is another setup also where you will have to define the sequence. Okay, so that sequential definition also you will have to make before you can perform any transaction in payable and receivable. If you enforce this, that means you are making it mandatory. Okay.
Chandu, a small question.
Yeah.
Is the sequence number is a alphanumeric or only numeric?
Numeric. Only numeric.
Only numeric.
Yes.
Okay, and we are specifying the ledger options, right, over here?
Yes, we are specifying the ledger options.
In journals, when we are entering, there is one number as a document number also in journals. But where that sequence we are providing, or it is taking automatically from the system?
Document number, there is no document number in case of journals. Okay, unless you enable this sequencing. Okay, if you don't enable this sequencing, then there will be no document number associated to journals. Okay, if you enable, then only that document number will be there in case of journals. Okay, so it is nothing but the accounting sequence or the voucher number basically.
Okay, and enforce chronicle order on document accounting date, that is disabled. Once we enable only, it will get updated, or when this will get enabled?
You will have to enable it. So if you will, how you enable it is basically first you will have to enforce the document sequencing for payable and receivable, and then it can be enabled. Okay.
So after saving only, it will get enabled.
See here, by legal entity, when you choose, okay, and enforce, that is when you will have to enforce chronological order on document accounting date. Okay, so this will get enabled if you choose the legal entity as the option. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So right now I'm making it as no sequencing, but we will see when we cover the before we start the configurations in payable and receivable. I mean to say payable, we will see the document numbering definition, how we can define the sequence and everything, and then how we can utilize this particular setup. Okay.
Again, we have to come over here and then enable those options, enable this option. Then only we'll be able to configure the things.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so though many of those things you will see, we will have to come back to this section again. I will revisit this section again and explain again the linkages. Okay, when we see a particular, particular transaction which has some impact based on this setup. Okay, so that I will again revisit and I will again tell you, okay, this is where this is the place from where that setup is governed, like that. Okay.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so specify ledger options is complete. Okay, now the next step Okay, so what have we done with respect to the ledger? We have created the chart of accounts, we have created the calendar, currency options we have seen. Okay, and then we have created the legal entities, right? And then we have assigned the legal entities to the primary ledger that we created. And then we have assigned the balancing segment values, that is the company segment values, to each of the legal entities. And then we have completed the specify ledger options. Okay, even though the mandatory ones are the only one required to begin with, but I have explained other things also which govern certain control aspects, or certain features related to the journal entry or balancing, or for that matter the sequencing, all those things. Okay, which is again part of specify ledger options. I've just given you a walkthrough of those things. Okay, so once the ledger, all these steps have been completed, comes the part where you need to complete, okay, complete the setup for the primary ledger. And how do you do that? So basically, there is one activity called review and submit accounting configuration. So this is the final step in the creation of the or finalization of the ledger setup. Okay, so review and submit accounting configuration. So first of all, you need to select the scope. For you, if it is a different ledger, first of all, you have to select your respective ledger by clicking on this particular link under the scope, and select and add, and select your particular ledger. Right now, it is already selected for mine. Okay, so I am not going inside to select anything else. Okay, and then I will say review and submit accounting configuration. Okay, so once you will see all the details here. Okay, the legal entity that is associated, the company values that is associated, all of those things you will see here as a reviewing activity. And for your case, the ledger status would be what? In progress. Before you submit this process, the status of your ledger would be what? In progress. That blue work in progress, that clock. Okay, that will be the status for you. Okay, and then you submit it, and the status will change to green tick mark. That means once it is submitted and the process has been completed. So where can you see this process? You can see this process in the schedule process. Okay, so let me open a new tab. So there was a process ID that you saw, right? That it has submitted under the process ID so and so. That process ID you will be able to see under tools. Okay, you have the schedule process. Basically, all the jobs that are running, you can review from, or you can even run certain jobs from this section. Okay, so this one, complete accounting configuration. This was the process ID that was displayed there when we submitted it. Okay, so it is running and it is now successful. So complete accounting configuration, when you ran, these are the child programs that got triggered. Okay, complete accounting configuration, create balance cubes, and then load chart of account values. These are the things that got that ran. These are the child programs that ran in order to complete the process. So the successful, once it is successful, then you will be able to see, you can go back to manage primary ledger, this one. Okay, search for your ledger, and you will see the status as green once that is completed successfully. If there is any kind of error that system encountered, that means any validation error that system encountered, then the status of this would be in error. Okay, then you will have to investigate what exactly has caused this error. Okay, so how can you investigate that? So from here in the monitor process, the complete accounting configuration, the status would be error, and when you click on that, probably you will receive some output log. So this, see under log and output, this is the log available. So you can click on this log and then you can read the log to see what might have caused the issue. So the log is generally where you get the reasons. of any errors or any issues that it has encountered, you will get the reasons under the log. Okay. So right now it is successful, so we don't need to go in and see the details. Only in case of errors you would do. Now there was one thing I mentioned, right? There is something that is created as a balance cube. So this balance cube, when you create it for the first time, it will be blank. Okay, and once you complete it, okay, once you do this submit review and submit accounting, you see there is a process that ran create balance cubes. Okay, so this is where once this has been completed successfully, this particular thing gets populated under the balance cube. Okay, so there is a altogether a different what do you say, Hyperion application. Earlier, it was a part of the Hyperion application, but it has been that feature of the Hyperion, application has been leveraged into Oracle, and it is something called S-based cubes. Okay, it is kind of another database or a simultaneous database that is maintained for maintaining or for storing the balances in the GL. Okay, so whatever journal entries or accounting data is being recorded in general ledger, okay, that gets additionally stored. So the database, Oracle database is there, wherein all the balances and everything is stored, but additionally there is a S-based cube, which is a alternate or a simultaneous database that is maintained for again the ledger balances. Okay, and in there everything is created in a cube format. Okay, cube by cube, the data is maintained. Okay, so that is where one of the cube is created based on the chart of account structure. Okay, that is used in the ledger. So that will get created only when we finalize or when we review and submit the accounting for the first time for the ledger. This balance cube will get created. Okay, and that will be based on the chart of account structure instance that is being used. Okay. So that is how the thing works.
Uh, okay, Chindu, I'm having a small query here.
Mhm.
So this balance cube, that means
Mhm.
which is nothing but a database which is going to be created in the same instance, right?
Yes,
So what is the usability of this creating a
there is a
separate?
lot of functionalities that are basically, see, this S-base cube, as I mentioned, it was a kind of Hyperion structure. Okay, so that
Mhm.
is leveraged basically in many reporting activities, as well as there are certain other additional functions or feature functionalities which leverage the data that is stored in this balance cubes. Okay, there are certain reporting functionalities that is dependent on this balance cubes. So basically the balances that are stored in here are basically used in those reporting functionalities. Okay, similarly there is something called mass allocation, where the again the data from these cubes are leveraged to process the mass allocation program.
Yeah, but for this, to call this balance cubes in the
Mhm.
reporting, are there any separate tables or separate views are there to call, or normally standard as a
It
standard
is
general?
inbuilt. It is inbuilt. So basically, the reporting, when you use the reporting tools, okay,
Mhm.
there is a database that we select, okay, and in the reporting tool, and then
Correct.
based on that
Okay.
database, basically it gets pulled up. So that is the
So,
linkage, you can say.
so at the time of reporting, you mean to say that we have to call this cubes database?
Yeah, when you before you create a report,
Yeah, correct.
you call this database, and then all the data related to that gets picked up.
Okay. So
Yeah.
basically, I'm from the EBS background, so I'm
Mhm.
just trying to relate the
Yeah, yeah,
database also.
yeah.
So, like how we are having the schema level, so this is also I can compare it to as a schema as an
Yes,
example.
yes, yeah. A similar concept.
Mhm. Okay. So through this, we can have the multiple ways of reportings also,
Yes,
and
yes. Multiple tools are actually working on these balance cubes, and
Mhm.
similarly, there is mass allocation function. So in EBIS, the mass allocation functionality was different, and it is entirely different when it comes to fusion, the mass allocation process. So it is much more advanced than what was there in EBS.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
again, that is something which is maintained, which is actually dependent on the balance cubes. Okay, so
So when
simultaneously, yeah, go ahead.
one small extension, Risha. See, when we are updating any values in the
Yes,
chart of account, so
yes.
then simultaneously it will get updated automatically, or do we need to submit this program again?
See, automatically this program gets spawned. Okay, so whenever we submit or when we create a new value, okay, or for that matter, any kind of updates that we make in GL for that matter, when we are creating a journal. Okay, so what happens is when we post the journal, along with that, the update balance cube program works. Okay, it gets spawned automatically. Okay, along with the seeded programs for posting of journals and everything. Okay, so this balance cube gets automatically updated along with the updates that are being made. Okay, but let's say for any reason, if it is not updated, okay, if that particular program is not automatically spawned, then there is a option which is available, that is called the update balance cubes. Okay, that is
Hmm,
available, which you can run, and then it will get updated, the balances and everything will get updated. Okay,
got
sometimes
it.
it may happen for some reason. Maybe someone might have cancelled it manually when it was running, or for any other matter, it went into error. So when you see the reports, when you try to create a report and you notice that certain values are not updated properly, then in that case you have an option to additionally run the update program, which will update the balance cubes, which will update the balance cubes with the latest values available.
Sure. Thank you. Got it. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let us. So this by this the creation of primary ledger is complete. Okay. Now the very next step is to open the period. Okay. So how can we open the period in the setup and maintenance itself? There is a task available to open the first period. Okay. Now what will be the first period? The first period that was assigned as per our calendar to the primary ledger, which was Jan 20 in the case, right? So this is the option from where you can click and you can open the first period. Okay. So whatever first period you want, from when you want to start the period opening, okay, for this particular primary ledger. So one thing to be noted is, let's say Jan 20 is the first period that you see on the ledger. Okay, and if you select at this point any other period, then anything prior to that period you will not be able to select. Okay, so in this case I had opened the first period from Jan 23. Okay, so that is where, since I had opened it, oh sorry, this is the current accounting, my bad. So the first period that I had opened is Jan 20, and let's say my calendar is defined even before Jan 20. Okay, that means let's say it was around from 2000 onwards, my calendar is defined, and I had associated that calendar to the primary ledger. And if I choose first open period as Jan 20, then anything prior to that will not be accessible for me. Okay, so Jan 20 is the period from where I can maintain the data. Any kind of accounting data into that primary ledger can be maintained only post Jan 20. That is the significance of the first period that is being opened. Okay. Now comes the part of providing the access. So we have created what? We have created the primary ledger. Okay. Now, so the setup part more or less, from the general ledger perspective, the setup part more or less is complete. The main setups. Okay, then whatever we see in future, the setups would be like, any functionality that you want to enable or any controls that you want to enable. Those are the things that you would see from a setup perspective. Okay, now we will move on to the transaction part. Okay, that means basically entering the journals. Okay, then trying out some of the aspects, like in the specify ledger options we have seen, like allow multiple currencies, or within the same ledger, or disallow, or for manual journal entries only allow a single currency. Those features we have seen at the specify ledger options. Similarly, automatic reversal, journal reversal criteria, those things we have seen. So those aspects or those transaction basically we will be performing. Okay, so let me show you the list of transactions. Basically creating the journals and posting the journals, loading the journals through ADFTI templates, FPDI templates, account inspector, auto posting, setups and processes. So this place you will see some more setups, auto reversal. So one thing we have already seen, again we will see there are other setups that are required. Similarly, data access setups and processes, cross validation rules, security rules. Okay, and then reporting and creating reporting ledger, reporting currency setup, then creating secondary ledger. Okay, creating budget, revaluation setups and processes, translation setups and processes. These are all the other things that we will be seeing along with the transaction. So for some transactions, some additional setups would be required, which we will see. Okay, but to start with, whatever was the basic required setups that we have completed to be able to utilize the to be able to enter a journal, okay, or maintain the accounting data, what is the basic configuration that is required, that we have completed. So now we will be moving on with the transaction part and the associated setups. Okay, so first open period is done. Now the next step for any person or any user, okay, to perform the transactions. That means in case of general ledger, we are seeing to be able to manage the journal ledgers, to be able to view the journal ledgers, journal entries, sorry, to be able to create journal entries, okay, post journal entries. All these are the activities that you perform in the general ledger. Similarly, open new periods, close the existing periods. Okay, so all these things that needs to be managed, okay, by a particular general ledger accountant. Okay, for that person to perform his duties or perform his task, there is a access required, which is called the data access. So it is something that we had discussed in the earlier security administration session that we were covering. Okay, I have covered. In that part, we understood there are certain data access components which actually forms the part of security administration, which in turn makes sure that you know who should be given the access of a particular kind of data and what is the access that needs to be given. Okay, so in this case, how to provide the access of primary ledger, okay, or the ledger that you have created to the users to be able to work on it. Okay, to create the journal entries, to post the journal entries, or to perform any kind of activity related to the general accounting, okay, in the business. So for that, providing the security is the task is basically manage data access set, data access for users. Okay, so it is not by the name of a ledger that is created. It is name of the data access for general ledger. Primary ledger access is given based on the data access set. So for every primary ledger that you create, okay, once you have submitted the review and submit accounting process, and it gets successfully completed, simultaneously by default a data access set gets created for each primary ledger. Okay, so that data access set that gets automatically created for the primary ledger needs to be assigned to the user, that is the business user, or in our case we can say the general accountant or the accounting manager, basically who is the manager for that particular department. Okay, that is looking after the general accounting aspects. Okay, so for them, this particular data access needs to be provided so that they can start. So first of all, let us see the data access set that is automatically created by the system. So that is the task is called manage data access set, from where you can view the data access which is system generated or system created for each of the primary ledger. Okay, so this is the data access set that is created by system. And the name will be exactly same as the primary ledger name that you have given. Okay. And the access set type will be full ledger, chart of accounts, structure instance, then accounting calendar, and these things, it will be displayed. Okay. Now, this data access set that has been created exactly with the name of the primary ledger, that we will add it to the user, or that we will provide to the user. And how can we do that? From this particular task, which is called manage data access set, data access for users. Okay, that is the task name from which you provide the access. So this is the page that will come up. Okay, there are two. First of all, I'll explain the page, and then we will go in to see how we can provide the access. Okay, so there are two things at the top, which is the bullet, which is users without data access and users with the data access. So users without data access and users with data access, if you put the bullet points respectively and provide the username, okay, then you will be able to search. Okay, user without data access. So all the users which don't have any data access, you will be able to see. Now users with the data access, basically any user you want to check what are the data accesses available with that particular user, then you can just click on this, and then username you will have to provide, and then and if you know the role that it is already assigned, then you can provide the role. Okay, or else you can simply put the username and then click on search. So let me do my case. Okay. So I want to see what are the data accesses available, data access set access available for username Chris William. Okay, so you see, these are the data access which are available. Okay, so this is for actually, searching out what are all available. Now, security context is data access set. Okay, so security context based on the task that we have selected, manage data access set, the security context is selected as data access set. Okay, in case of payables and receivables, the data access is governed by the business unit. Okay, similarly, in case of general ledger, as it is data access set. In case of payable and receivable, it will be business unit. So in the security context, you will find all the other options as well. Like, where is it? Business unit is one of the security context. Similarly, asset book is another security context, which will be for what? For the fixed assets module. Now, cost organization, this is for cost management. Okay, in the supply chain, we have something called cost management. So for that, it is the cost organization. Okay, in case of legal entity, so for some cases, it is the legal entity. Okay, like in cash management, if you want to restrict the data by legal entity, then you will have to provide this legal entity as the security context. In case of manufacturing application, okay, it will be the manufacturing plant. In case of project modules, it is the project organization. Okay, then reference data set is another security context which governs a lot of other things. When it majorly in case of asset module, in case of receivable module, use of reference data set would be more. Even in payables, it is there, which we will see. When do we need the we need the data reference data set context as an access. Okay, so right now for our case, we are looking at the general ledger application. So for us, it is the data access set that is required in case of general ledger application. Okay, and how do you give? In my case, this is already provided because I was already working on it. Now, let's say in your case, you will have to provide for your user IDs, you will have to provide the data access set of your respective ledgers that you create. Okay, so how can you do that? Once you have created your ledger, the data access set will be created by default by the system automatically, and that data access set you will have to provide. And how can you provide it? Just by clicking on this create icon. Okay, this window will open. You need to provide your username, whatever your username is, and then you will have to provide the role. Okay, given that the role is already provided, okay, when the user was created, or else you will have to first provide the role from the security console for the general ledger application. Okay, and what are the roles? Okay, let me cover that as well first. So how can you provide it? You need to have, first of all, the access to security console, okay, which definitely you will have. Okay, so from the tools, you will have to go to security console. Okay, and then click on users, select your username, search, okay, and open your user, and check if you have the access to the general accounting and general accounting manager roles. So you have to check in this section, okay, whether this is available or not. General accountant and general accounting manager, these two roles. If it is not, then you will have to simply click on edit. Okay, scroll down, click on add role, and search by the name general accountant. Okay, and then select it. And if it is or not, if it is not attached to your user, then it will come up here. Once you select this general ledger accountant, it will come here. Then you select that and click on add role membership. Similarly, you will search for general accounting manager, then it will appear over here, and then you will add click on add role membership. So that will be done. Okay, so the roles will be assigned. So once the roles are assigned, then you can, once you have checked that the roles are available, if it is not there, you assign it and then come back to this page. And then which is called the manage data access for users. That setup you will have to select manage data access for users. Okay, and then you will have to click on add. Then the username you will have to provide. Let's say it is Chris William in my case. Okay, then I will provide the role. What is the role? It is the general accountant and the general accountant role. You will have to select from the list. And security context, you will have to select as data access set. Okay, and then you will have to select the security context. So which is nothing but your primary ledger name itself. Okay, so you will have to search ABC Corp. In my case, it is ABC Corp primary ledger. So I entered ABC Corp, select the ledger. Okay, and then you will save and close. Whatever you want to add. So general accountant is also a role for which you want to have the access. And again, for general accounting manager also, you need to have access. Okay, so that for that, first of all, you will add the second row by clicking on add here and add the second row and again follow the same process. Okay, Chris dot William, and then general, this time it would be general accounting manager. And then again select the security context as data access set, and then again select the primary ledger. Okay, so this is how you provide the data access to the primary ledger that is created. Okay, then you save and close. For me, if I save and close, it will throw an error saying it is already available. See, a record with this combination of value already exists. Okay, for you, it will not give this error because you will be doing it for the first time.
Chandu?
Yes.
So by this way, one user will be having the multiple security context values if we are providing, right?
Yes.
He can have. So
Yes.
parent and child relationship. So in this case, is there any option to default when the user is logging in, if I want to default to one particular context value, security context value, is there any way? And whenever he needs, he can change it.
See, by default, okay, what happens is whatever access is available, all those will be available to you. Okay, so let me show you. So if let's say, for example, if I have multiple accesses, okay, multiple ledger or data access I have available. So when I go back to the application, okay, from the navigator or from here in the Springboard, okay, if I go to the application, let me go to general accounting. So that is our next step also. Okay, so we are going to general accounting, and let's say we want to go to journals. So when I go to this part, based on whatever my access is, okay, it will be available to me here in this section, data access set. Okay, then we have ABC Corp primary ledger here. Okay, so this is how default it is. Okay, based on the sorting, the character sorting, it will take up the first default available. Okay, now you will have an option to change it. So if, let's say, for example, if you have multiple ledger accesses, then you will have an option to change it from here. Okay, so if you want to switch to a new ledger, okay, then in that case you will have to click on change, and this thing will open up, and then you select the ledger, basically whichever ledger or access set you want to access to. Okay,
so there is no option. There is no option to fix it up to a particular ledger, right?
No, there is no option to fix it up. The reason is it is all based on the data access. Okay, it is not basically the ledger. So if you have multiple data access set which has been created for multiple ledgers, you will have as a drop down option. Okay, you will have a drop down option, and which you can select depending upon whenever you want to work on whichever ledger. Okay, according to that you can select from the drop down.
Okay, this will arise only when we are having the multiple ledgers assigned to a particular role and particular user.
Yes.
So, and this will get defaulted based on the sorting wise, as you said.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Here we need to take care. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Anyways, because the thing is, person is supposed to work on all those ledgers. That is the reason he has been given access.
Okay. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. See, so anyways, he has to make sure that
few people in the organization will be having this, like CFOs and chief accountant will be having these things.
Yes.
So when coming to the end user role, it will be a one particular ledger he will be working on, where his cross ledger data will not be accessible for him. So no problem.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how, so that is where, this data access set is the first thing that you will have to do from a security context perspective once you have completed all the configuration aspects. And then you have to come to this section for the general ledger. From the navigator, you select, or you go to the general ledger application or general accounting application. And then you have to select one of these. Now, journals is the place where you need to go to in order to perform all activities related to journals. Okay, like manage journal, create journal. Manage journal is for reviewing the journals, okay, for viewing the journals. Similarly, so we are already in this section, so let me explain. So this is the dashboard. This is one of the dashboard that is available for journals, okay. So this journal requiring attention, that means any journals has gone into error or could not be posted because of any reason, and it needs some action to be taken, so it will appear under here, okay. And then it will also display the issue with that. Then incomplete, all the journals which are in incomplete status, okay, will be displayed under this section. All imports which have run into error, okay, will be displayed under this section. Okay, so this is the quick dashboard that is available to basically monitor these particular for these particular purposes. Okay, now this is called the task list. So you click on the task list and you will get all the tasks which you can perform as part of the journal work area. Okay, what is that? Manage journal, create journal in spreadsheet, create encumbrance journal in spreadsheet, then run auto post, run auto reverse, manage approvals. Okay, then reconcile clearing account automatically, reconcile clearing accounts manually. So this is all the reconciliation features. Okay, advanced feature which I told you, right? In the when you enable the reconcile thing, it will work. Then allocations are there. So this is called them. This is for the mass allocation process, which we will see. Then journal import. Okay, so this is for the import process. Okay, in order to manage the import activities. Then subledger accounting. So this is for subledger accounting. We have an option to manually create some subledger accounts, subledger accounting, manual journals. Okay, that can be managed from this section. Okay. Then these are the taxable transactions for journals. Also, certain taxable journals can be created using this particular feature. What we will be covering is we will be covering this section, the journal section. Then we will cover this allocation section and journal import. Anyways, we are doing it. So when we cover the FBDI, okay, that is the import using file-based data import. Similarly, import using the spreadsheet. So those things we will manage under this section. Okay, under the journal section. Then you have similarly period close. So all period close activities that can be managed are related to the period close can be done from the period close tab. Okay. There are certain general accounting dashboards that you will see in this general accounting dashboard. Okay. In this particular work area or workspace. So there are certain additional dashboards which are available. So let us just have a quick look at that as well. So these are some of the dashboards. So account monitor. So there is a specific functionality for account monitor and the use of it that I will explain when we come to this part. Okay. Then the intercompany transactions. So in case of any intercompany transactions which are actually governed from the intercompany module. So there is an intercompany module also additionally, which we are not covering. The intercompany module we are not covering, but certain intercompany balancing rules. Okay, that will be part of when you enter a manual journal for two different companies. Similarly, when you enter certain transactions which has the account combinations related to two different companies, in such scenario, intercompany lines need to be generated. So for that, whatever is the setup that we will cover. Okay, but this is for the intercompany transaction. Okay, intercompany module. When an intercompany module is being utilized or business is using the intercompany module, certain transactions are created from that module. Okay, so those transactions, to have a look at it, this is the dashboard available. Then the journals. So journals, what we have seen in the journal page, that it is the same dashboard that you can see from the general accounting dashboard also. Okay, then we have the close monitor. So the close statuses that can be managed and even can be reviewed. So this is the place where you can, from the dashboard, you can access. Okay, the ledger, then the period, and then you can even handle the period activities like opening of the period, closing of the period from this section. Just click on this and you can do that. Then receivables also is something that you can see the statuses and even you can manage. So generally, this particular section comes up with the general accounting manager role when it is assigned. Okay, so this access comes up. So manager will have this access to the close status dashboard where he can manage the periods and everything from here, and also he can see and the periods related to receivables, payables, and everything, and he can instruct the respective department manager to take an action based on this status that he sees over here. Okay, and there are certain additional things also that are available, like in case of, if I click on payables, okay, I will get the dashboard, I will get the details, like if there are any accounting entries in error, or all those things can be managed. Okay, that is there in the close monitor process. Sorry, here you can manage the periods related to payables. Okay, but this is something which will be available to the general accounting manager, this dashboard. An accountant will not have he can view it, but he cannot take any action related to opening or closing. Okay, so this is all part of the general accounting dashboard. Then there is task list. Okay, again, certain things can be governed like period close process, manage accounting period, then revaluation of the balance revaluation, translation of the balances, similarly, inquiring of the balances. All these are additional things that can be handled. Okay. So that's all for today. And we will start with the journal creation of journal entries from tomorrow. And we will start with the other aspects. Okay. Other transactional aspects. That's it, guys. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Chandu. And tomorrow we have the session or on Monday?
No, on Monday. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chandu. Have a great day.